everyone. Good morning, depending on where you are. It is so great to be here. My name is Milena Brookshire, and I will be joining you today to talk a little bit about employee engagement, drivers around employee engagement, and then how to identify engaged employees. So what do they actually look like? It's been great being a part of the summit so far. Been able to network with folks and had some really great session on a panel yesterday. So I hope everyone is enjoying their time as well. As I mentioned, my name is Milena Brookshire. I am the CFO at AmeriCorps. I have been at a few different federal government agencies throughout my career, including the Environmental Protection Agency, the Securities Exchange Commission, and a brief stint at the Office of Management and Budget, as well as some experience in state government. I've been management and executive for the majority of my career. So I've had lots of opportunity to engage with employees, not only from a technical level, but also when it comes to coaching and mentoring as well. It is a huge part of making things work effectively and properly, as I'm sure you're all aware. So today I'm excited to share with you a bit about my experience about drivers that have been effective and some tips I've used and some ways that have been helpful for me to identify those employees that are engaged. So why don't we dive right in? So we'll start with a brief chat about rethinking employee engagement. I'll talk about those key drivers that I mentioned, how to really drive employee engagement and some success factors. And then some ways to identify engaged employees. This is helpful not only to recognize those employees that are engaged, but also to help those engaged employees to potentially coach and mentor others and the things that are working or aren't working in your organization. And then I'll close with a few strategies that you might try implementing and a few stories of my experience. So rethinking employee engagement, it's really, I think there's been a lot of time spent around employee satisfaction. Satisfaction can be very transactional, right? Whether your employees are satisfied, feel safe, they have the work they need, they're getting paid, versus real employee engagement. So just talking around shifting the focus to organizational engagement as opposed to just employee satisfaction. Organizational engagement is about everyone working together, where silos are replaced by a common purpose. And I'll talk a little bit about how to do that in some following slides, but it's really around people understanding the mission, how they fit, and having that common purpose. These are not new ideas. I'm sure you've heard it before, but I'm hoping to give some solid examples and some good ways to key drivers and things that you might be able to implement in your organization. So employees might appear contented at work, but this does not necessarily mean that they're engaged in a true sense. Right? They show up at work, they don't complain, they get along, they do their tasks. However, making them truly, helping them to be engaged is far different from them just being satisfied and happy, as I mentioned before. I'm sure, you can Google employee engagement and there are so many definitions and explanations. I'm sure you've all done it before as you've been trying to implement your own strategies around employee engagement, but I just like to share a few of my favorite and interesting ones that I found. So when defining employee engagement, a couple that I noted, the emotional commitment the employee has to the organization and its goals. So there's sort of an emotional component, a feeling behind it, not just those simple transactions. Another one, the art of getting people to believe what you want them to believe. So that's a bit interesting, right? There seems to be like there's something that that they don't know. I'm not sure if that's the best way to approach it. But there's definitely an art to it in making sure you're meeting them where they are, finding their currency, what their values are, and going from there and getting them to be engaged. Just a couple of others. Again, emotional connection that an employee feels toward his or her organization. So still having that, there's some emotion behind it. Again, not simple satisfaction or just transactional. Another one where the employee can influence his or her behaviors and level of effort in work-related activities. So I'll talk a little bit about that as well, around people being able to have some autonomy with their work and having some being part of the decision-making process. That's really, really key to employee engagement. So a lot of them that I saw definitely had that emotional component. People really being involved and active is another one. So again, you can Google it. There are tons out there. There were some funny ones as well that I didn't pull, but I do encourage you just to get a feel for, what's out there and what some of the experts are saying, whether they're in HR or management or executives themselves. It's always really interesting to see the perspective of others and how they approach and define employee engagement. But all in all, sometimes leaders can mistakenly think that increasing the satisfaction will increase engagement. Again, most times satisfaction can be just around those simple, basic transactional issues: compensation, the tools they need to do their work, the resources, physical safety. But moving beyond that, we're talking about both the organization and the employee making, constant deposits in the relationship, right? We're working together. We're figuring out what works. Sometimes satisfied employees might just put out as much as they are given or compensated for. So again, we want to move beyond that. They deliver what is asked. As long as they deliver what is asked, it's sort of they meet their part of the deal. So again, moving toward more organizational engagement, employees that are really active, involved, they're sort of those brand advocates. That's really what we're going for when we're talking about employee engagement, organizational engagement, and beyond simply employee satisfaction. So what are those key drivers that I mentioned? One of the first ones is, a clear mission and talent alignment. Their clear and actionable mission provides direction and purpose. Mission statement should reflect that commitment to organizational values, and employees should have a clear line of sight around their contributions to the organization. That's where they're able to best see sort of how their talent aligns. Transparency and clarity is another big part of that. Everyone needs to have that clarity around what's most important to focus on, both in the work they perform and their values. What are those values that the organization holds in the highest regard? And that people can mirror their behaviors to match those values. When everyone understands what needs to be accomplished and the behaviors that are expected, it's much easier for them to succeed. I think a lot of time we do focus on the mission and the values. Bringing in that component of behaviors that, again, mirror and reflect those values is very, very important. It's not just enough for an employee to be able to sort of recite that value statement. It's really around how do we work together and how do we conduct our work in a way that mirrors that. Purpose as well. Usually, and these are things that should start right in the onboarding process. How the organization represents their values, being clear about the impact that the employee can have on the organization. And that really ties back to their not only their position, but the role that they play and how they can connect the dots to other work of the organization. The employee experience is really important in this area as well. How they relate not only to each other, but their tools and the technology they use. Aligning the employee with the mission is really not enough. A lot of times you really have to make sure that the employee has what they need to do good work. That's really important, especially when it comes to talent alignment. I think there are times when we really get really good at attracting talent, but there's a responsibility of the executives and the management to make sure that the work environment, the culture, the tools that people have, all of that supports the talent that they bring on so that people can really go out there and do great work. And there's also sort of that overall organizational goals, right? And how those goals are impacting the broader community, whatever the community is of that organization. So not just the work and our output as an organization, but then in doing that, how do we impact our broader community, and how are we getting at those broader objectives that we're trying to reach, that reach outside of just the walls of the organization? You know, another big item here when it comes to the talent alignment, the clear mission, you know, diversity, obviously, and inclusion plays a very big role here. Making sure that it's, you know, that everyone is coming together, bringing their talents. Really key when we're talking about diversity, not conformity, right? The diverse viewpoints, skill sets, expertise that folks bring is really, really key to the success of an organization. Preserving those unique strengths and preserving that unique perspective that's brought in by a diverse set is key, very important, and not to overwrite them with any fixed way of thinking, or, you know, this is how we are normally doing things, and making sure that people and employees have the opportunity to flex those skills and use those unique strengths to add value to the organization. Another key driver is really important here, moving from managing to coaching. Again, you know, a lot of this are things that I'm sure we've all heard and maybe even experienced, but it's a key driver to keeping an employee that is engaged. Engagement builds trust, right? And that's really where it starts. It's all about how the manager and the employee can build that trust and align there and work together. Empathy and recognition should remain at the forefront, which, you know, in most situations, it's not just about the transaction. It's, again, you know, bringing about the behaviors, how we work together, how we conduct ourselves, how we do the work. And that should be remain at the forefront. Having that empathy with the employee, making sure we're understanding situationally what's going on with them that might be impacting the work, and how, as not just a manager, but coaching them through either challenging times or challenging work, and really being that support. And that culture of coaching supports a culture of communication. Right? You can't effectively coach and build that trust with staff if you're not regularly communicating with them. It's obvious that, you know, managers today realize if they want to engage and motivate employees, they must form a partnership. That means involving from just the manager or the boss to the coach, and that's even from top down. It really goes full circle. From your sort of team leads to sort of middle management and executives and beyond. It's having the understanding that workers perform and grow when managers are partners in the process of the work and learning the process. Sometimes it's really helpful for staff to know that, you know, you're in the trenches with them. And of course, you might not be doing that day-to-day transactional or even operational work, but you understand it. And that's, again, where that empathy comes in, and being able to communicate with them to keep that open. It's also based on, you know, supporting each other, right? The manager or coach and the staff supporting each other, continuing to learn, to grow, and transform. I think that employees seeing that their managers or executives are open to continuing to learn, that also helps to build and strengthen that trust, knowing that, you know, we all can continue to learn and grow from each other, and we're all, again, bringing those diverse skill sets and unique talents to the table, and we can all benefit from that. Some key tips on, you know, how to effectively sort of move into that coaching or that transformational coaching. Clear communication, as I said before, goes a long way. Commitment is huge. Commitment to employee success. That also helps to build trust. That also helps them to know that you're there for them. You are, you have their best interest in mind, not just with the work that they do, but also though in their future growth. It also helps build that confidence that needs to exist in that relationship, so that people and staff, both the staff and the manager, have a safe environment for conversation, for communication, and even for taking risks and trying something new. Another key component is, a very empathetic way to challenge each other and to challenge the staff to move beyond whether it's their technical zones of comfort or their more emotional zones of comfort, to challenge the attitudes, the beliefs, and ideas. Again, that's another way that not only the employee can grow, but the organization can grow as well. And then, of course, compassion, empathy, very key. The coach, accepts and allows for reasonable freedom of mistakes. It's important for managers to do so that the employees feel like they're in an environment where they can grow and learn. And then congruency is really important. It's important for the manager or the coach to be consistent with their words and actions and be a role model. That is really, really key to fostering that engagement, is when staff, they see the management and executives not just talking the talk, but walking it as well. Another driver, communication and transparency, right? We can't say it enough. I feel like we all know communication is the key. We provide an understanding of the organization's objectives and where the employee work fits in. If we're an organization working toward the same goals, we're in this together, we care for one another, not just in the work that we do, but as we grow and learn in our careers. Showing new talent how the values and the mission support them is really key. So not only how the employee and staff support the mission and the goals of the organization, but how the goals and the mission of the organization, and this is really where the values and behaviors come in, support your employees at getting their work done and how they fit in. And also thinking about it in a way that the values really unite the organization and unite all that are involved. Succeeding together should also be another way that you're showing the employees, and that's another key way of helping and fostering, again, that level of engagement. They know that they do good work, the organization wins, but they also know that the organization only wins by providing them the support they need. And then lastly, accountability and empowerment. Engaged employees understand how their values connect to key results. And then also engaged employees are directly involved and they have an opportunity to influence their work. And that's something that I mentioned before, in one of the many quotes, employees feeling like they have an opportunity and an avenue to influence the work they do is really, really key. As more and more leaders come to understand that employee empowerment is key to engagement and achieving goals, they realize that people obviously are their most strategic asset. We hear that so much, and it is so true. It's really not just a buzz statement. The employees really, really make the organization. I'm sure we've all been there, right? Where the job is the job, but what really made our experience were the people that we worked with. It's really important that we realize that, when it comes to all the other organizational elements, the technology, the products, the processes, that results from the actions of the workers. It's only as successful, and we're only as successful as an organization as much as our employees can use those tools and as much as they're engaged. There is a time, when we definitely get concerned in ensuring that our employees feel empowered and contribute to the company's mission. I know for a lot of us, when it comes to things such as like the federal government employee viewpoint survey and other related surveys across different organizations, a lot of times that comes up, right? It's the ability to influence work. It's feeling empowered. It's being part of that decision-making process. Making sure that we're involving staff in that way is really, really key, so that they understand that they can achieve something and it can be aligned with the rest of the organization. So what does it really mean to empower, right? And how do we go about it? Empowering employees to achieve something, it does, like I mentioned, requires that alignment between what they are looking to do, their own personal career goals, and the organizational goals. So I'll say that one more time. It really requires that alignment between their professional, personal goals and the organizational goals. For employees to feel empowered, they have to feel that real connection to the mission, that drive, that what they value aligns with that organization, and they have the skills and the talent needed to make things move and to make things happen. It also requires for the employees to have an autonomy to make certain decisions and accountability for their work. So while they might not be, a top decision maker or an executive, providing the employees that room to figure out how best to solve a problem or how best to tackle an issue. Even providing that can help them to not only get experience in making decisions around the work they do, but realizing how the decisions they made impacted the results. And sometimes there might be failure, and that's okay. That's a part of that that's a part of that, coaching instead of managing. You coach them through that. And learning from those failures. And then there will be obviously times when there will be some really great wins. And then the employee is able to really see that connection between this was a decision I made about the work and it had an awesome result. And they can take that moving forward, not only provides them with that confidence, but also they can reflect and know that that space was given. For them to do that. And that really, really supports and fosters levels of engagement. When it's really important, again, that's that congruency for leaders to be consistent and really to make sure that we're practicing those behaviors that we're hoping to see, and we're matching our actions with the employees' expectations. We really have to make sure that match is there. Otherwise, we really miss out on the benefit of empowered workers. And when workers are empowered, you really see their active engagement. You really see them being involved. And usually, more times than not, that's where the organization really can strive. So how do we identify engaged employees? What does it look like? I think that's usually the question that comes to mind. A lot of what I just talked about those key drivers. Again, I'm expecting are nothing new, right? It's things that we've heard, things that we've seen, or even put into practice in our own, in our teams or as executives ourselves. So I wanted to talk a little bit about how to identify those engaged employees. What do they actually look like? Well, the first thing, and this is something that in my experience I've really seen, they're energized, right? And not only are they energized, but they energize others. That is really, really key. There are folks who are not just showing up to work, but when they are on the job, they are excited about it. They're looking upstream, right? They're always trying to make sure that they're part of the process, that they have not only input, but making sure that they're bringing their talents or bringing their skills to the table in the best way that they can, whether they're in a leadership position or not. They're really energized. They're excited about the work. They understand the mission. They understand the work that they do and how it contributes. And that in itself is very energizing. And they energize others. They're very good at pulling together their colleagues or other workers to get things done. Because they're so excited about it, they're able to communicate that. They're able to share not only the excitement they have about the work, but possibly even hear the results we're expecting, right? And that can really get others engaged and energized. So that's a really, really key one. I know I've had experience with this myself with one staff member who it was something as simple as employee timekeeping, which is extremely operational, not too exciting on the surface. But as we were hoping to get some tighter controls around that, this staff member who, again, took such pride in her work, and part of her job was as a timekeeper for the office to make sure that we were doing it properly. So not just from a compliance standpoint, but she was able to connect that to the overall goals, right? Making sure that we have a process that is well controlled, and that leads to other things such as employee pay, employee leave. And so she was really able to see the bigger picture. So not just in a timesheet, but the implications that were there. um, that was very energizing for her because she knew that by doing this work, it would not only help with reporting that we were doing as an office, but she also was able to say, once we can get a process that really works and tighten up our controls here, it can be shown as a best practice for others. And I can go around the organization and share it, right? So that was energizing. And that's how she also energized others. She was able to get a good team involved. Not only managers who were sort of certifying time to employees to figure out where the disconnects were, and spent a few months really diving in and digging in. And then we recognized her for the work that she did, because that's also important. Once you have employees that are energized and they're working to get things done, recognition is a key part of keeping those employees engaged. Not only do they see their own connection and the value in their work, but also knowing that they're recognized for it and they're valued for it is key. The second item there, engaged employees freely offer ideas for a whole host of reasons, but one of which is, as I talked before about, creating a culture of coaching instead of just managing and supervising. By creating that culture of coaching, you've empowered the employee to know that failure is okay and that new ideas and innovations are welcome. So when they really feel that and trust that, they freely offer ideas and they see what sticks, right? And not just ideas for the sake of ideas, but because they are engaged and they understand the mission of the organization and they understand how the work they do ties to the organization, they use that information, pull it together, and think really constructively about what's something that can work here. What's an idea I can offer to help us all move forward? And the word freely is really important here. And that's where the engagement part comes in. Instead of just an employee who's, simply involved and will offer an idea if asked, or will offer an idea if it's directly tied to their work, an engaged employee freely offers idea without being asked or solicited for them, simply because they might see something where we can do things better, or a way to challenge the status quo. And so they're constantly thinking about a way to be involved in that way and to engage themselves in that. And around energizing others, they're really always excited about connecting with others around these ideas, or how they can collaborate or work with others to either push their idea forward, or, if that idea is supported and embraced by the organization, how they can make progress. Another item for identifying engaged employees, they're truly brand advocates. And this goes back to their values aligning with the values of the organization. When an employee feels that the things that they believe in are reflected and mirrored in the organization, and then they're able to do work to carry out those values and that mission, they're your number one brand advocates. They're talking about it with their friends. They're sharing their successes with other colleagues. They're sharing their successes with others as they network, really talking about how great the organization is and how excited they are about working there. And that can really only happen when an employee is truly, truly engaged, because not only are they able to share the successes of the organization, they're really tied into it. Something that I mentioned before, when there's a win, it's everyone's win. It's a collective success, and they really feel that. And as brand advocates, they share that information, whether on social media or in person or virtually, as we are now. They're constantly advocating for the organization, sharing the good things, and also being honest about where there might be changes or improvements, because an engaged employee, being that they're really a part of the organization, they want to make sure that there's continuous improvement, and they want to be a part of that continuous improvement. So that's also part of being a brand advocate, and that's really where you have an employee that's engaged. A few things to implement. This is sort of where I give some tips around some experience that I've had that's really worked well. I had one employee who did a lot of our administrative operations for the office, and was struggling with finding where she tied to the overall mission of the organization, of the office and the organization on the whole. There were quite a few other staff whose work was so very clearly aligned with the organization's mission, goals, and outcomes, that being as part of our administrative team, it was really hard for her to see how that work aligned there. And so one thing that I did is I had a brainstorming session with the entire administrative team. There were about 4 of us all together. And we sat down to brainstorm that alignment. And also, I was able to point out exactly how the work that they did as an administrative team supported the organization in accomplishing its mission, and directly tying it with some real work products, everything down from the office's budget and how the funding decisions we made aligned with not only our office strategies, but organizational strategies, but also in the day-to-day functioning of the office, and how that really provided that mission support that we needed as an organization to move forward. After we had that brainstorming session, we took those items and shared it up the chain through management and the other executives in the office, just to make sure that employee was able to get out front, talk about all the good work that she was doing and that the entire administrative team was doing. And then we provided some time more regularly every quarter for them to come back and share with us some of their thoughts around how we can continue to improve organizationally and how we function as an office, and then some of the successes they've had in the previous quarter. So that was something where it's really important to give employees that stage in a way for them to share their successes. That can always be really important in helping to engage them, because not only are they doing the work, but they're sharing the good work they're doing and being recognized for it. Another strategy that's really great to implement that you might be able to try, in another one of my offices, it was clear to see that in everyone's role, it was pretty siloed. Everyone had their expertise and they were subject matter experts on a particular item. And the work was less collaborative and more of sort of a passing off, right? Once team A did simply passed it along to team B, and team B picked it up from there. So in their function, they were very engaged. It was actually a very, very strong team. But as I looked across to see how they were engaging with each other, and that sort of they are being energized and energizing others, it was lacking there. And a lot of it was really that they didn't understand the work of the other organization. They knew from a process flow what needed to go from, what needed to happen in each step, but they weren't exactly clued in on the work of their counterparts and colleagues. So one thing that I did was implemented sort of a monthly show and share. And in doing that, the teams were able to have a few minutes to talk about the work they do, and the impact it has and the results they have. So in doing that, it gave those staff, again, an opportunity to share the good work they were doing, but it also was learning for everyone else. And through that learning, there came a better understanding. And through that better understanding, there came a clearer view of the entire organization, and a clearer view of how the organization worked and operated. Again, furthering that engagement. So not only were they engaged and excited about the work they were doing, they also started to be engaged and excited about the work of the other teams. And then I even saw, folks going out for coffee more together, right? So it just kind of flowed through. It became not just about the work, but how they work together, and tying it back to those behaviors that I was hoping to see. And as leadership, it was up to me to create that environment and that culture, and that space for them to do that. It really ties back to, for those behaviors and the collaboration that we're looking and hoping to see as leaders. It's really important for us to create that environment and foster it, so that employees can have that space. I just wanted to know if there are any questions. I've talked and shared a lot. Please feel free to put your questions in, and let me know if there are. If not, I have to share that, throughout my career, the employee engagement component the coaching, the mentoring, the learning from employees and my colleagues has truly been the most rewarding part. Of course, getting products out the door, getting good work done, being recognized for it has also been fantastic. But really around the support and growth of my teams, my staff, has really been where I've been able to have some real success stories and really see the value in the work that is done, and really where I get my excitement and where my engagement gets really it's really exciting for me as I work through that and in coaching and mentoring, and hopefully others see the value and necessity in that as well, because only through that are organizations able to be successful. So thank you, everyone, for your time. It was really great to be able to share my experience and my thoughts and some strategies. I hope that you're able to implement them, and I hope you got some really great key takeaways.